in the relentless unfolding of our days, among repeated steps and thoughts swept along by the current, there are moments, brief yet brilliant, where something pierces through, a crack in the routine, an ancient whisper slipping quietly between the noise. Like the sudden gleam of a shooting star, a new kind of perception stirs us, clear, vivid, snatching us for an instant from the slumber of our daily lives. We walk, we rest, we contemplate, and then, quite unexpectedly, we see, but not as we usually do. We see with the eyes of the soul, as though a veil were falling, unveiling a deeper, more expansive order beneath the surface. And in that moment, we grasp that we are not the center of anything, nor are we seated in some grand, singular universal theater. Each being, each consciousness, moves upon their own stage, lit by their own inner flame. And though sometimes our stories touch, our lights may briefly overlap, we each continue our path within our own unfolding tale. This awakening has a name in our modern tongue, Sonder. But the ancients, though they lacked the term, knew it well. They sensed it in the creaking forest at dawn, in the dance of drifting clouds, in the fleeting encounter of a stranger's glance. It is the revelation that every face, no matter how brief its presence, holds within it an unfathomable universe. Each soul lives a story rich, complex and real, no less genuine than our own. And in recognizing this, we glimpse a truth older than words, that life does not confine itself to what we can see. Life spills over the edges of perception. We live surrounded by interior lights, by parallel lives quietly crossing ours. A passing car, a lone figure waiting, a lit window glowing in the night. Each is a doorway to a world unseen, and the soul that contemplates this cannot remain the same. It expands, it bows, it wonders. Modern science, with its fine instruments, now begins to stumble upon the very mysteries the ancients once intuited. It discovers that what is observed shifts with the observer, that matter cannot be defined without the eye that seeks it, that particles, in the tiniest depths of existence, behave differently when they know they are being watched. What does this mean? Might reality be not a fixed structure, but a living dance between the eye and what it beholds? Perhaps the real is not a solid object, but a vibrant field of meanings, woven between consciousness and being. Perhaps there is no single center, because everything is center. And if this is so, then each life is sacred. Each encounter, a mirror. Each thought, a spark from the universal fire. For we are not separate from the whole. We are part of a single song, sung by countless voices in countless tones, together composing the infinite melody of existence. Since time immemorial, the wise have pondered the question, what is truly real? The stones beneath our feet, the fire that warms us, the wind that sings in the treetops. Do these things exist in their own right, or only because we perceive them? The idea of a solid, fixed reality that carries on regardless of our attention seems as natural as breathing. But deep within ancient consciousness, another possibility was already being whispered, that reality is inseparable from the eye that beholds it. Much later, this whisper found voice in the words of philosopher George Berkeley. According to him, nothing exists outside the mind. There is no independent matter, only ideas. What we call reality is, in truth, the sum of our perceptions held together by awareness. This doctrine, which the modern age would name subjective idealism, was considered heresy in its time, and even today it unsettles the intellect. Because if everything depends upon the mind, what happens when no one is observing? Skeptics raised a timeless question, one as old as the forest itself. If a tree falls in the woods with no one around, does it make a sound? For Berkeley, the answer was yes, but not due to any human witness. Rather, because God, the Supreme Consciousness, is always watching. All unfolds within His eternal gaze. Thus, the world continues even while our eyes are closed in sleep. But what if it is not God who observes? What if it is something deeper still, something vaster than the image the human mind has drawn of the divine? What if the act of observation is not exclusive to humans or a creator, but rather an inherent quality of the universe itself? In the most secret corners of modern quantum physics, echoes of this ancient intuition can be found. There, in the depths of the infinitesimal, particles do not behave as fixed things, but as possibilities, as questions yet unanswered. And only when they are measured, when they are observed, do they assume a definite form. It is as if the universe were not a collection of objects, but a fabric of questions awaiting their asking. Perhaps observation is not merely a visual act, but a sacred rite, one that gives shape to being. Perhaps we are co-creators of the world, not through divine power, but because we partake in a mystery older than all names, the intertwining of consciousness and existence. Thus, what once seemed certain, a fixed external reality, dissolves into a mist that takes form only with the steps of the one who walks through it. And truth, that flame we seek in the temples of knowledge, may burn just as brightly within the seeker, not only in the answers they find. At the heart of modern knowledge, where the sages of science delve into the mysteries of the minuscule, reality begins to blur. What was once assumed firm and dependable, an objective, solid matter, entirely independent of human gaze, now reveals itself as something far subtler, more elusive, almost ethereal. It was in the 20th century, beneath the shifting skies of a humanity in transformation, that two paths emerged to explain the nature of the universe. One was that of realism, proclaimed in the voice of Einstein and other modern thinkers, affirming that the world exists as it is, with or without us, that stars continue to shine even if no one sees them, that particles retain shape, position, and energy, even when they are not measured. The other path, stranger, deeper, was that of anti-realism, upheld by Niels Bohr and the pioneers of quantum mechanics. They glimpsed something unsettling, that in the subatomic realm, particles possess neither shape nor state, until someone or something observes them. That reality itself remains in a state of potential, like a seed that does not sprout until touched by attention. And it was through experiments, such as the famed double-slit experiment, that this vision found form. A particle sent towards two slits will not choose a defined path unless it is observed. Rather than behaving like a single solid object, it appears as a wave of probabilities spread through space like a melody yet to be played. But the moment it is observed, the wave collapses, and the particle behaves as something fixed, concrete, defined. No phenomenon is real until it is observed, said physicist John Wheeler. His words echo like the chants of ancient oracles, a mantra that reminds us that seeing is not passive, but creative, that the gaze of the conscious being does not merely reveal the world, it partakes in it, summons it, gives it birth. In ancient cultures, such an idea would not have seemed foreign. The Vedic sages spoke of the universe as Maya, an illusion woven by perception. The Toltecs described the world as a collective dream. To them, the observer and the observed were never truly separate, but intertwined in a single flow of being. Perhaps, standing at the edge of our microscopes and equations, we are rediscovering truths the ancients already knew, that the universe is not a blind machine, but a living mirror. That reality is a dance between attention and the real, between what we are and what we believe we see. And perhaps, within that mystery, lies the key not only to the cosmos, but to ourselves, that in observing the world, we may also be observing ourselves, and perhaps helping to bring into existence that which is yet to be. In these modern times, where science gauges the pulse of the cosmos with lasers and accelerators, secrets have been uncovered, secrets that might well have unsettled the sages of old. One such mystery emerged in 1972, when physicist John Clauser, following the trail of those bold enough to look beyond the visible, confirmed something that seems drawn from an ancient dream: that particles, once entangled, remain bound together, beyond both time and space. These entangled particles, born from the same event, continue to share their fate, even when separated by unimaginable distances. When one is observed and its state determined, the other, regardless of whether it lies millions of kilometers away, immediately reflects that change, as though an invisible thread were weaving their destinies, as though the universe, in its deepest essence, does not recognize the notion of distance. This phenomenon, which appears to violate the principle of locality, presents us with a deeply unsettling truth that reality may not be locally real. That is, it does not operate like a board where pieces only affect those close by. Rather, it suggests that what happens here has a resonance there, and that what is defined at one point in space might instantaneously influence what is elsewhere. To traditional physics, this idea was heretical. How could anything occur instantaneously when not even light, the fastest thing known in the universe, can move that quickly? And yet, the evidence was undeniable. What once seemed impossible became instead inescapable. Reality is not as we had imagined. And within this strange finding of particles interacting without any apparent connection, an ancient wisdom quietly echoes. The peoples of old spoke of invisible threads linking all beings, of a web of energy or spirit that binds everything to everything else. They called it mana, chi, prana, tanali. Science now names it quantum entanglement. Perhaps there is no contradiction between these worlds. Perhaps, through different words, they are pointing to the same truth, that the universe is not a scattered collection of things, but a single, living whole, interwoven, knowing itself through each part. And if this is true for particles, then why not for us? Are we not also entangled with those we love, with those with whom we share story, memory, and blood? Do we not, at times, without knowing why, feel that something has shifted in a loved one far away, as though the heart had sensed what the senses could not? Quantum entanglement challenges not only physics, it speaks to the soul. It reminds us that everything is connected, that there is no far when it comes to being. That separation is but an illusion, useful perhaps, but ultimately untrue, and that what we do, think, or feel may echo far beyond the limits of what we are able to see. When the wise observe the universe, they do not seek only what is, but also what it means. And in that search, they discover that reality does not always answer with certainty, but rather with riddles. One of the most profound riddles of our time was posed by physicist John Wheeler, who envisioned an idea as simple as it is monumental, that everything that exists ultimately arises from information. He called this insight it from bit. All that is comes from the bit, the smallest unit of knowledge, from a question answered with a yes or a no. The ancient sages, who saw in language and symbol the very architecture of the world, might well have nodded quietly at this vision. For from this perspective, the universe is not a thing, but a dialogue. Not a stone, but a story still being written. A conversation between being and the consciousness that questions it. Wheeler suggested that reality is not simply there, lying in wait to be discovered like a statue buried in the sand. Rather, it resembles a path in the mist, emerging only as we walk it, taking shape according to the questions we pose to it. And not just any questions, but the most essential ones. Are you there? Are you this or that? Yes or no? In this view, every measurement we make, each act of observing, recording, or choosing, is a spark that shapes the world. It is not a matter of bending reality with the mind, but of recognizing that reality and mind are deeply intertwined, like the weaver and the loom. The world responds, but it responds according to how it is asked. And what if no one asks? Does the universe fall silent, remain undefined? Perhaps not. Perhaps the question need not be spoken in human language. Perhaps reality is constantly questioning itself in an endless process of self-observation. Collapsing stars, atoms clustering, beings born and passing away. Are these not ways in which the universe gazes into its own reflection? The ancients spoke of the word, the primordial sound, the creative voice. Today, physicists call it information. Yet both, though separated by centuries and speech, seem to gesture toward the same intuition, that existence is knowledge in motion, a dance of bits becoming things, of thoughts becoming matter. In this cosmos of questions and answers, every act of awareness is part of the great conversation. We are both senders and receivers. We are part of the network that gives shape to the real. And in the depths of it all, where words no longer reach and numbers fall silent, perhaps only one truth remains, that everything which exists was once a question. There was once a time when consciousness was seen as a divine breath blown into the clay of the world, a sacred spark bestowed by the gods, dwelling within flesh. As the centuries passed, science sought to contain it within the human skull, describing it as a byproduct of neural activity, complex circuits born through chance or evolution, giving rise to what we call thought. But what if that is only part of the truth? What if consciousness does not emerge from biological complexity, but is instead a fundamental property of the cosmos itself, older, perhaps, than light? This is the essence of Panpsychism, an idea that may seem novel, yet breathes with the ancient air of the earliest cosmogonies. It proposes that every particle, every flicker of matter, carries within it a seed of awareness. Not awareness as we experience it, not thought, memory, or emotion, but a subtle form of presence, a quiet glow, a basic capacity to respond to existence. If this is so, then the universe is not a silent stage upon which random events unfold, but a living, breathing entity, conscious of itself in ways we scarcely understand. A great body of stars and atoms that feels, that dreams, that knows, not as we do, but as a unified whole. Imagine then the cosmos as a vast brain, not made of neurons, but of galaxies and subatomic particles, and that the information flowing within it is, in essence, thought. In this grand cosmic mind, each of us is like a single cell, each moment a spark of signal. We, tiny nodes in this sacred network, believe we are watching the universe from the outside, as detached observers, but perhaps in doing so, we are only reflecting ourselves, like two mirrors endlessly facing one another, multiplying their image to infinity, yet never revealing the full picture. This wisdom lived already in myth. Ancestral peoples told of mountains that listen, rivers that remember, stones that keep stories. Modernity, in its mechanistic fervor, casts these tales aside as superstition. But perhaps within those poetic whispers lies a truth more profound than any formula. If consciousness pervades all things, then nothing is meaningless. Every leaf, every grain of dust, every distant star plays its part in the grand dance of being. and we are not alone, nor truly separate, but connected, invisibly, to all that is. Perhaps what we call reality is consciousness examining itself, unfolding its countless faces, listening to its own echoes. Perhaps in our effort to comprehend the universe, we are merely thoughts it thinks about itself. And in this search, we do not find something foreign. We rediscover ourselves, fragments of a far greater mind, slowly awakening from its dream. Much of what has been said here may seem like a tapestry of abstract ideas, a dance of concepts drifting on the wind. Theories born within university walls, philosophical meditations that slip through one's fingers like smoke. And perhaps they are, because we have yet to cross the threshold of the deepest mystery, ourselves. We still do not truly understand what consciousness is, that inner fire that allows us to ask who we are and why we are here. We know how an electrical signal travels through the brain, but we do not know what it is that feels, what remembers, what dreams. And if we remain uncertain about the nature of consciousness within ourselves, how can we say, with conviction, whether the universe possesses it or not? And yet, in that very recognition, there lies a flicker of wisdom. For to admit the mystery is to open the door to wonder, and wonder, perhaps, is the root of all true knowledge. Perhaps the universe is not a mere collection of objects existing independently of us, but a living process, a story in perpetual rewrite, its plot woven together with the consciousness of those who inhabit it. The experience of Sonder, that sudden moment when we realize that each person carries a life as vivid and complex as our own, is not a fleeting emotional curiosity. It is, at its heart, a profound revelation. It reminds us that every human being is a universe unto themselves, filled with stories, sorrows, loves, memories, and dreams. Every face we pass, every voice we hear, every fleeting presence that crosses our day is an entire world. And all these worlds are here, coexisting, interlacing, brushing gently like the branches of trees swaying in the wind. When we grasp this, the illusion of separation begins to fall away. We discover that reality is not a singular entity, but many. And each of those realities, each subjectivity, is part of a broader tapestry, a single objective reality that is the living sum of all perspectives. The ancient sages knew this. They didn't express it in quantum theories or equations, but in myth, in symbol, in song. They said, "As within, so without. What you do to another, you do to yourself. Everything is connected." Today, science begins to whisper those same truths in a different tongue. It tells us that observation alters the observed, that reality responds to the way it is measured, that consciousness might be a fundamental part of the cosmos. And between these two visions, the ancient and the modern, there arises a possibility that cannot be proven by instruments nor refuted by cold logic, that everything is alive, that the universe is not a blind machine, but a being in the midst of becoming, that the real is not a fixed object, but a dance between gaze and matter, between thought and form. Perhaps our thoughts do not merely shape our inner world, but resonate in the very fabric of reality itself. Perhaps, as in dreams where we are simultaneously the actors, the scenery, and the storytellers, so too in life we are co-authors of the whole. There is no other, there is no outside. Everything we see and touch is part of us, and we are part of it all. We are like drops in the ocean, distinct yet inseparable. We are thoughts of the universe, dreaming itself through each of us. And if this is true, then everything matters. Every gesture, every word, every choice. Because every life is a thread in the vast tapestry of existence. Because what we believe ourselves to be shapes what the world shall become. And because in the end, at the very heart of mystery, there is no separation. All is one. All is connected, and each consciousness is a spark from the same fire that lights the stars. And that concludes our video. If you enjoyed the content as much as we did, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. Leave a comment below. We'd love to hear your feedback and suggestions for future videos. And don't forget to turn on notifications to stay up to date with all our updates. Thanks for being part of our community. See you in the next video.